Everybody like and subscribe, praise the bell icon. Story number 1.
The old city library had always been a quiet sanctuary, a place where time seemed to slow, and the whispers of pages turning created a comforting hum. But for Rachel, the newest librarian, it quickly became something else entirely, a place where silence carried a weight far heavier than she expected. It started the first week she was on the night shift. The library's upper floors closed at dusk, but the basement archives remained open for researchers with special permission. On her third night, Rachel was cataloging a box of forgotten manuscripts when she noticed a faint rustling from the dark end of the aisle. At first, she thought it was a rat or maybe the building settling, but then came a soft, almost deliberate shuffle, like footsteps. She called out, expecting a colleague. The only answer was the echo of her own voice bouncing off the walls. When she turned on her flashlight, the beam caught something peculiar. A tall shadow standing just beyond the stacks. It had no clear form, just an outline darker than the surrounding darkness. She blinked, and it was gone. The next nights, the encounters grew stranger. Books she hadn't touched appeared pulled off shelves, their pages torn or marked with strange symbols she didn't recognize. The lights flickered intermittently, casting long, twitching shadows. Occasionally, she caught fleeting glimpses of that shadowy figure, always just at the edge of her vision. One evening, Rachel found an old journal wedged between two massive encyclopedias. The leather cover was cracked and brittle. Inside were entries from a former librarian, dating back over a century. The journal spoke of a curse tied to the library's foundation, an ancient spirit bound to the building by a terrible event that had been erased from all official records. As she read deeper, the entries became frantic. The librarian wrote of voices whispering in the dark, books that bled ink, and a presence that fed on knowledge and fear alike. The last entry was a warning. Do not trust the silence. It hides what watches from the shadows. The basement is the heart. If you hear the pages turning when no one is near, run. That same night, Rachel's fear became real. While organizing some documents in the basement, she heard the unmistakable sound of a book opening nearby, then pages flipping rapidly, though no one was there. The lights went out completely. In the suffocating dark, the air grew cold, and she felt breath on her neck, icy and ragged. Frozen, she dared not move until a whisper slithered into her ear. "Read with me." Her flashlight flickered back on, revealing the shadow right in front of her, its hollow eyes filled with endless hunger. Rachel dropped the flashlight, stumbled back, and ran. The sound of countless pages tearing echoed after her all the way up the stairs. Since that night, Rachel never returned to the library after dark. But those who work there still speak of the eerie rustling and the faint smell of old paper mixed with something far more sinister. Like knowledge itself has a price, and some stories are better left unread.
Story number 2.
In the heart of the city stood the Graywood Library, a place so ancient that even the dust seemed to carry secrets. It wasn't just the age of the building that unsettled people, but the stories whispered about the restricted section, a locked room no visitor was ever allowed to enter. Rachel, a curious and determined student, was drawn to it like a moth to a flame. One rainy evening, after everyone had left, Rachel found herself alone, shelving books near the old oak door that led to the forbidden room. The key was nowhere in sight, but then she noticed something strange, a faint outline of a latch hidden behind a crooked bookshelf. Her heartbeat quickened as she pushed it aside, revealing a small brass key hanging on a nail. Without thinking twice, she grabbed the key and slipped inside the locked room. The air was stale, colder than the rest of the library, and the dim light barely illuminated row upon row of dusty leather-bound tomes. But one shelf caught her eye, a collection of unmarked journals, each thicker than a novel and smelling of decay. Rachel opened the first journal. The pages were filled with frantic handwriting and detailed accounts of people who had disappeared after visiting the library. One entry described a shadowy figure that could mimic voices, luring victims deeper into the stacks until they were lost forever. Another spoke of a cursed book, bound in human skin, that once read aloud would trap the reader's soul within its pages. A sudden cold breeze brushed past her neck. She spun around and saw, just beyond the shelf, a pale face with hollow eyes staring at her. the figure whispered. "Read to stay." Frozen in place, Rachel felt the journals begin to flip open by themselves, pages turning rapidly. She tried to scream, but no sound came. The shadows twisted and coiled, reaching out like claws, pulling her closer to the cursed books. Just as her fingers grazed the spine of the skin-bound tome, the light snapped on, and the librarian was there, an old man with eyes too sharp to be kind. "That room is no place for you," he said quietly. "Once you enter, the library never forgets." Rachel fled, but the echo of those whispered voices followed her every step. From that night on, she avoided the library altogether, though sometimes, when the wind howled and the city was silent, she swore she could hear the faint sound of pages turning, calling her back to the Greywood's darkest secret.
Story number 3.
There was a small-town library tucked away on a quiet street, one that most people hardly noticed. It was a modest place with peeling paint and creaky wooden floors, the kind of library where the smell of old paper mixed with dust and forgotten memories. For years it had been rumored among the locals that if you stayed too late, something strange would happen. Ellie was a college student working there part-time, mostly during the evenings. One night, as the rain hammered against the windows, she was closing up when she heard soft footsteps echoing through the stacks. Assuming it was another late visitor, she called out, but no answer came. The footsteps stopped abruptly, replaced by a faint whispering, like someone reading aloud, but the words were indecipherable. Curiosity got the better of her. Ellie followed the sound deeper into the library, toward the oldest section, where the shelves were taller and the lighting dimmer. The whispering grew louder, more urgent, pulling her toward a narrow aisle she'd never been in before. The books there were ancient, their spines cracked, and titles faded. As she reached out to touch one, the temperature dropped sharply. Her breath misted in the air, and a sudden gust slammed a book shut behind her. Ellie spun around, heart pounding, and saw a shadowy figure standing just beyond the bookshelf. It wasn't quite human, too tall, with limbs that seemed to stretch and twist unnaturally. Frozen, she watched as the figure reached toward her. Its hand was cold and solid, like stone, yet somehow dripping with darkness. Ellie tried to scream, but only a faint sound escaped. The figure's eyes glowed faintly, and it whispered, "You belong to the stories now." From that night, Ellie was never seen again. The library staff dismissed it as a disappearance, but visitors claim that if you go there late enough, you can hear her voice mingling with the whispers, reading aloud the stories she was trapped inside. And sometimes, if you stand very still in the ancient aisle, you can feel a cold hand brush yours, beckoning you to join the forgotten tales.